Hi guys, it's me ChazzaHD and welcome to the 2018 Italian Grand Prix race reaction. How are we all after that race? What a race it was. Hopefully we've calmed down after what was a controversial but again an exciting and enthralling race from start to finish, and I cannot wait to go through it with you guys right now. But in case by some miracle you missed today's Italian Grand Prix, all important Italian Grand Prix, I will now go through it, or go through the results with you guys. So here you go. Lewis Hamilton is your race winner from Kimi Raikkonen second, Bottas third, Vettel fourth, Verstappen is fifth, then Grosjean is sixth, Ocon seventh, Perez is eighth, Sainz is ninth, Stroll is 10th, Williams scoring a point for the first time since Baku. What a great weekend, you'd have to say, for Williams. Sergei Sorokin in P11. Charles Leclerc is 12th. Van Dorn 13th. Hulkenberg 14th. Gasly did not have a good race in P15. Marcus Ericsson is 16th. Magnussen is 17th. And then out and retiring from the race, Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso and Brendan Hartley. But before I cut to the chat and see what some of you guys think about the race, let me go through the top three teams and how they did in today's Italian Grand Prix. First off, your race winners, Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton winning the Italian Grand Prix. That's his 68th career victory, and I think that's his best win of 2018 so far. The way he went round the outside of Vettel was great, even though Vettel did, of course, hit him. We'll get onto that once we get onto Ferrari. And his move on Kimi was very, very good. Loads of pressure on in doing that move, catching Kimi Raikkonen, getting past. What a great move, and what a great race from Lewis Hamilton. That was a brilliant race that he drove, and yeah, I'd say the best win of his season so far. He hasn't been as good this season as he was, say, for 2017, but this was more like Hamilton from last season, and now I think he has extended his championship lead to 30 points over Sebastian Vettel. Is the championship over? No, of course it's not. There's still plenty of races to go. We have 7 races left. Ferrari should be faster at the majority of those races. But 30 points is definitely a healthy cushion to have going into the final 7 races. Valtteri Bottas finishing in P3, he didn't have the pace all weekend. He didn't really have enough pace to get past Verstappen, which was a surprise, but he did finish on the podium because Verstappen took a penalty because of that collision, which we'll get onto once we get onto Red Bull. But yeah, Bottas wasn't really good in today's race. He kind of struggled to get past Verstappen or even get up to the back of him in the first place. He just wasn't really doing that well at all. Not a good race from Bottas. I don't think he'll be that good in Singapore either. I think the next time you can expect him to be good is probably the Russian Grand Prix at the end of this month in September. But yeah, all around for Mercedes, a great day. First and third. What a great day it has been for Mercedes. Now though, I'll go on to Ferrari. Now, it was all looking good after qualifying. A 1-2 on the grid. Kimi Raikkonen, of course, on pole from Sebastian Vettel second. But then, at the start, it went all wrong. Sebastian Vettel making contact with Lewis Hamilton. And after seeing a few more replays, no one should get a penalty for it. But if there was a driver that was more at fault, it's definitely Sebastian Vettel. He ran wide and went into the side of Lewis Hamilton because I think he was a bit surprised that Hamilton went round the outside off him. It was a great move by Hamilton. Vettel was kind of surprised, maybe panicked a bit. Went into the side of him, broke his front wing, had to pit, and then obviously came back through and eventually finished in P4, all because of Max Verstappen's penalty. So he's a bit lucky there that Verstappen, you know, had that penalty, because if he didn't, he would have finished instead in P5. But for Kimi Raikkonen, he drove so well today. That was one of the best races he has drove since he came back to F1 in 2012. What a race. What a weekend from Kimi Raikkonen. But at the end of the day, The reason Kimi did not win this race is because the Ferrari strategists and the Ferrari team fell into the trap that Mercedes created. Mercedes dummied a pit stop. Ferrari bought it. Came in with Kimi Raikkonen, made the pit stop, and then Mercedes with Hamilton went, I think, was it 5 laps longer? Something like that. And that is what was the difference at the end of the Italian Grand Prix, because as soon as Hamilton got past Raikkonen, he was way out in head because Hamilton had much fresher tyres than Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen was struggling so much on his tyres towards the end of the Grand Prix. So nothing Kimi did wrong. It was just the team, again, fell for the trap that Mercedes created and Ferrari. And again, just like Hungary, just like Germany, just like China, Baku, so many races where they could have won the race. They really should have won the race. They blew it once again. And that is going to be very costly again at the end of this season. 13 points that Vettel has lost out on today on Lewis Hamilton. Moving on to Red Bull though, nothing really Verstappen could have done any more today. I actually think he was one of the best drivers out there today. One of my contenders for driver of the day, which by the way guys, I will be getting on to at the end of this stream. Yeah, I thought Verstappen was very good today, holding off Valtteri Bottas for the entire race. Now, when it comes to that penalty, I don't think it was a penalty. I think Bottas had enough room to not have the collision. Yes, Max moved across, but he did not completely move across and push Bottas onto the grass. Bottas kind of turned in when Max, went to push wide, and that's what caused the collision. For me, a racing incident. I don't understand why Max got the penalty, and I think Max fully deserved a podium, but that is just the way it is. We all know what the FIA are like, but Max, in terms of driving, did all he could, so great race from him. Daniel Ricciardo, though, retiring from the race with another engine problem. He always has these kinds of issues, and again, just like Germany, I think, new power unit, and he has a failure in the race. Again, that is not good enough from Renault's point of view, of course. But I think Red Bull, they did everything they could. They're just waiting for Singapore, let's be honest. They're waiting for Singapore where they think they're going to be quick enough to maybe win the race. We'll have to see. I don't think they will, but again, we'll see once we get to Singapore. But this weekend, this race, I think Red Bull did everything they can to maximise points, no pun intended, maximise points at this race weekend, because as we know, Monza is not a good track for them. But for those three teams, guys, what did you think about Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton? What did you think of Hamilton's overtakes as well? What did you think of Ferrari? Did they blow the race, or do you think Hamilton and Mercedes were just better today? What do you think about the Vettel and Hamilton crash? Do you think someone different to who I think is at fault? Do you think Hamilton was at fault? Do you think someone should have got a penalty? Do you agree with me? And also, what did you think about the Verstappen penalty? Did you think Verstappen should have got the penalty like he did? Or do you agree with me that it was, at the very least, a harsh penalty? Let me look at the chat right now and see what you guys are saying. Alex Gatter, what do you think of Van Dorn's race? I'll get onto that in a moment. Just looking at the chat right now. Verstappen was wrong and fair penalty. Maybe he shouldn't have moved across. Maybe he shouldn't have, but you know he's a very aggressive driver. He's going to do these types of things, but I don't think he caused the collision. I think Bottas, I'm not saying Bottas caused the collision, but I don't think you can directly penalise anyone there. Andrew Drury, I am an angry Ferrari fan. I understand. I completely understand. Ferrari and Vettel blew their respective races today for both Kimi and, of course, Vettel himself. Was this a good race, Chaz? That's from Caleb. Yep, this was. This definitely was. This was the best race, I think, since Silverstone. I think this was better than the German Grand Prix. But I don't think any better than Silverstone. I still think Silverstone was the best race, but this was a very, very good one. Did you enjoy the race cast? That's from Alejandro Barbosa. Yes, I did. If you have not seen the race watch along, by the way, it is now up on the channel and is in the description down below. So if you want to go back and watch that, please do. Vettel should have been penalised. That's from Roosevelt Davis. I don't think anyone should have been penalised. I could understand why if you think he's at fault and you have to penalise someone, but I don't think you have to penalise anyone in that incident. It was just a racing incident. Sorry, by the way, if I have a sore throat. I have been commentating a lot today. A lot better than Germany. Baku was my favourite race of the season. That's from JB. Bless Doob. Mercedes were helped by the Vettel-Hamilton incident. It did help, but then again, Hamilton... If Vettel didn't hit Hamilton, Hamilton was going to pass him anyway. So, maybe. Niblo China is the best race of the season. Roosevelt Davis, he turned into Lewis. I don't think he deliberately did. If you actually look at the replay, where he is at the track or in that corner, he kind of got straddled on the curb. And when you do that on the inside of that chicane, you can't turn left. You're only going to go straight on. So there was nothing he could do. He had to go into the side of him. You know, if he didn't go into the side of him and missed him, he would have gone across the chicane. There was nothing I think Sebastian could have done, but it was more his fault, but, you know, not massively. I still think it was just a great overtake and a racing incident. Seb pinched and understeered into Lewis, really. Yep, I agree. That's from Niblo. Roosevelt Davis, 2 four-time world champions racing, so I would have let that go as well. You got to remember as well, you know, it's lap 1. These drivers need to be allowed to race. Lap 1, a lot of the time, decides what's going to happen in the race. So you need to let these guys have a go. Lap 1 is so, so important. You can't just, you know, ban and, you know, give penalties to everyone for every little incident. Lap 1 is lap 1. Just let it be. Daniel Dimov, Ferrari let their drivers race, and this is what Hamilton needed. I don't think that's what won Hamilton the race. I think what won Hamilton the race was, you know, first getting past Vettel and then obviously Vettel having his incident on his own. But and then, you know, Mercedes and Hamilton having the pace to go and beat Raikkonen. JB, I strongly disagree, Chaz, with your opinion about the Verstappen incident. I think Max 100% deserved it. I can understand why you'd think that, but I think Bottas had enough room not to have the incident. I think he had enough room. Mitchell Corey, Ferrari owned speed advantage throughout the half of the season. The strategy is trash. I think I said earlier in this year that Ferrari have to replace their strategy guy because, or the people making those decisions, because they keep getting it wrong. They keep getting it wrong, and this is why I think Hamilton is going to win the title, and I've said this since the start of 2018, because I don't trust Vettel and Ferrari as a partnership to get the job done. And what have you seen today? Exactly that. As a partnership, they cannot get the job done. So, yeah. He won due to strategy. This is from me too on Cube. Ferrari should have easily won. I don't think they should have easily won. I think, again, Ferrari with Kimi Raikkonen fell for the Mercedes trap. Just looking at more comments. I will move on in a moment to the midfield teams. Bottas, 20 seconds off Hamilton today. This is from E7 Suspect. He was fighting with Red Bull while Hamilton was fighting with Ferrari. Maybe you could say that's the difference between the two drivers, but I just think Monza is not a good Bottas track. He's never really been that great at this track. So yeah. Zane, Chaz is Max fan, nothing wrong with that, but Bottas was on grass. Where else do you expect him to go, Chaz? I'm not a Max fan. Like, he is my favourite driver, but I don't will him on to win a race. All I want is a interesting, exciting race like we got today. I don't care who goes on to win it, but if you look at the replay, Bottas did have room. If you look again, Bottas turned into Verstappen's wheel. I'm pretty sure he did turn into his wheel. Again, it was close and Verstappen did come across. But I don't agree with the penalty. I don't agree with it. I think Bottas did have just about enough room to get through. Santosh, Ferrari drivers wanted glory. Lewis took advantage of the situation. Niblo, Bottas hit Max before he went onto the grass. Exactly. He had room. He definitely had room from what I remember of seeing of the incident. But we'll move on, guys. We'll move on and go on to the midfield. Now, McLaren. Wow, what an awful race again. Fernando Alonso retiring after about 7 laps, I want to say. Something like that. I still don't know what the issue is, so I'll find out for the race review that's coming out tomorrow. But Verstappen Van Dorn, poor. That's all I can say, just poor. I mean, at least he wasn't last, I guess you can say, but P13, still poor. This is McLaren. They should be way better than this. For Renault to be scoring points and McLaren to be so far off is just not good enough. Just not good enough. And Singapore should be better for McLaren, but I still don't see them scoring points. I still don't see it. I don't think McLaren... I really don't think McLaren will score points for the rest of this season. I don't think they will. I think Force India have a very, very good chance of catching McLaren. By the way, Force India now, I think, are past Toro Rosso and Sauber. I think. Just trying to think. Yeah, I think they are. Or they're just behind or equal. They're not that far behind McLaren. They're only, what, 30 points? Less than that behind McLaren. So, worrying times for McLaren. They look so poor right now, and they've got to get 2019 right, because this season has just been a unmitigated disaster. But for Renault today, it's actually quite a decent race. Carlos Sainz finishing in P9. And yeah, a good race from Carlos Sainz. I did not think he'd qualify in P7 in the first place in qualifying. For the race, I thought P9, P10 is where he would end up, and that's exactly where he has ended up, because, as I said in my build-up in the race watch-along, I didn't think he could hold back the 2 Force Indias or the Haas of Romain Grosjean. I didn't think he could compete with them in the race, and P9 is where he finished. Nico Hülkenberg down in 14th, I think. Because he started at the back and the Renault isn't amazingly quick around this track, I guess that's the best he could have done. Maybe he could have beat Van Dorn, but he was never going to score points because he was starting down at the back, and he did actually pit on the first lap. So he was always, going to struggle to score points. But, a decent race from Nico. Renault, they, scoring points at Monza, that's good. But as we'll get onto with Haas, they've let Haas kind of off the hook. Haas had a good race today, so we'll get on to Haas very, very soon. And now we'll go on to Force India, who had a good race. Esteban Ocon in P7 and Sergio Perez in P8. I said in my build-up and in my race watch-along, Sergio Perez would finish, P8 or P9, and that's exactly what he did. And Esteban Ocon finishing 7th. Maybe he could have beat Grosjean today, but it was still very close. But good race overall for Force India. Very good race. They were very racy at the start with certain drivers, especially Sergio Perez with McLarens and, Toro Rossos and cars like that. And they came through and got a deserved 10 points which goes towards their constructors' effort. I'm not sure if they're ahead of Toro Rosso. I haven't checked the constructors' table, or all of it. But I know that they are ahead of Sauber, but I don't know if they're ahead of Toro Rosso. Again, I'll have to look later on. But good race for Force India. But guys, what do you think about those three teams' races? What do you think about McLaren's race? There's nothing really to talk about with McLaren, sadly. There was just nothing there. Renault, what do you think about their race? Do you think Carlos Sainz was good today, finishing in P9, getting what could be, even though Haas outscored them today, what could be 2 vital points once we get to Abu Dhabi? And for Force India, what do you think about their race? And what did you think about Sergio Perez coming through the field to get P8 and Esteban Ocon getting P7? Let me look at the chat right now. Thank you, by the way, to the 140 people watching live. The numbers, by the way, this weekend have been mental. So thank you guys so much. If Force India having the 59 points, I guess you're saying back, they could have beat Renault. I think they'd have a very good chance of finishing 4th in the Constructors if they kept their points, but they couldn't. There was no way they could. Sauber has the prettiest car. That's some roots about Davis. They do have a very pretty car, indeed. Force India would be P4 if they kept their points. That's from Caleb. I agree. Hello to Joseph Hernandez, who's just joined in the chat. Daniel Dimov, do you think Vettel would have won had Raikkonen let him through at the start? I don't know. I don't know. We don't know what Vettel's pace would have been like, but we can't, say, oh, if Raikkonen let him through at the start. Raikkonen shouldn't have let him through at the start because Vettel hadn't, earned his way past. Raikkonen deserved to keep the lead at that point. So, they shouldn't be giving out team orders straight away like that. You shouldn't be doing that. Andrew Drury, Ricciardo would have scored more points in a Renault than he did in his Red Bull this weekend. If he didn't have a penalty and the new engine, which of course failed, I don't know about that. Rico Isaac says, Lewis Hamilton, I guess, quote, at the peak of career, says Nico Rosberg. Yeah, I would agree with that. Lewis, this is the best I wouldn't say this season is the best he's been, but this is the best part of his career. I think 2017 was a better year. JB, I feel so sorry for Ricciardo. He's my favourite on the grid. I feel sorry for him because he just has so many engine problems. When is this guy going to get a break? And hopefully Renault and the works team can give him a power unit which is is powerful and reliable, or powerful enough. It doesn't have to be necessarily amazing, but powerful enough and actually reliable, because it's getting ridiculous, honestly. Niblo, thanks, JB. You should feel sorry for me too. I just feel sorry for the guy. What does Ricciardo have to do to stop having these issues? It's kind of like Kimi. Kimi, he has so many issues and so many things go wrong for him. He could have won in Spa last weekend. He could have. He was that quick. It's just, for those two, I do feel sorry quite a lot for those two. Force India, big update in the next race. Do you think they could beat Haas? If it works, then they probably should do. But I think Renault are going to be very quick in Singapore. Maybe not as quick as I thought they were going to be, say, a few races ago at that kind of track, but they're going to be quick. Legendary Snipers. Ricciardo deserves to be at I was going to say Force India, then at Mercedes. He does deserve to be in that kind of car. I agree, but he's never going to get in that kind of car. Really, he's gone to Renault now, and hopefully that does work. Joseph Hernandez, Singapore might be good in Singapore. I don't know what you're trying to say there. Delirious User, no, Ricciardo's issues are less self-inflicted than Kimi's. Yeah, I agree, but Kimi does have issues which aren't, his problem. For example, in Spa, that was his team and that accident at Turn 1 which caused all of those issues. wasn't his fault. There's plenty of times where it is Kimi's, fault, but there's plenty of times where it's not. Sorry, I meant Force India. That's from Joseph Hernandez. So Force India might be good in Singapore. Maybe. We'll have to see. It's going to be very close, I think, between Renault, Force India and Haas. And then Toro Rosso, they'll be in there as well because they're very good at Singapore as well. Will Stroll be coming to Force India for the next race? There's been talk, actually, that Stroll will not be going to Force India until the start of next season, which I agree with, because if Force India can catch and beat McLaren, why not keep the drivers, Perez and Ocon at the team? Why not keep them? They're doing a good enough job, so you don't need to put Stroll in. And by the way, that does say a bit about how the team actually feels about Lance Stroll, that they want to keep the current drivers in to score points. I'll leave that to another day. Anyway, we'll move on now to Williams, Toro Rosso, Haas and Sauber. First off, Williams, very good. Lance Stroll finishing in the points in P10. Sergei Sorokin in P11. Williams, as we know, at this kind of track, are very good. So that's really the main reason why they've been quick this weekend. And they were very competitive in the race. They were, having some good battles with Perez, with, I think, a Sauber. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Charles Leclerc. But having some great battles in the field. So, good race for Williams. I don't think they'll score points again this season. I think this is their last points finish, unless we get a crazy race somewhere down the line. Yeah, so if you're a Williams fan, this is probably your last points finish of 2018. It's been a horrible season, but at least they have scored 1 point today, but they're still going to finish last in the Constructors. And today and this weekend, I got to just say, this weekend does not, in any way absolve Williams' season. Williams' season has still been so poor, has been, quite frankly, pathetic. This result does not absolve that. This is just, it's one result. It's not going to completely remove all of that bad. But good race for Williams. Toro Rosso, from the very start, it looked like it was not going to be a good race. Brendan Hartley retiring after yards. I don't even really know what to say about his race. He didn't even make it down to turn 1. He's that unfortunate right now. Pierre Gasly finishing in P15. Just didn't have the pace today. Didn't have that good of a start. There was a couple of occasions where it looked like he was almost going to crash into Daniel Ricciardo. Thank God he didn't. But yeah, they didn't really have any pace today, Toro Rosso. I thought they would be up there with Sainz, Stroll, maybe Perez as well, but they didn't have any pace today. I don't know why. Maybe the tyres just weren't working, or the cars around them had a lot better straight line speed today. I don't know, but they just weren't quick today. Don't know what the issue was, but hopefully for Singapore, and they should, at Singapore, be very, very good. I think Singapore, they will be scoring points. Definitely with Gasly, maybe Brendan Hartley as well. We will have to see. Next up, though, is Haas. Now, even though Kevin Magnussen had a terrible race, Romain Grosjean up in P6. Great race. Scoring 8 very, very important points. And now, I believe, in case I'm incorrect, if someone wants to correct me in the chat, then go ahead. I think now, Renault and Haas are now level for 4th place in the Constructors. I think they are. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they are now level for 4th in the Constructors. So Haas, in a couple races, maybe after Singapore, could be taking that 4th place away from Renault. So Haas continue to get the good results, and if they continue like this with Grosjean, who I have to say in the last couple races since the summer break has been very good. I'd be very disappointed to see Haas change their driver lineup, because yes, Grosjean has made multiple mistakes, but those were in the early part of the season. Now he has the qualifying pace, and he also now has the race pace, which he didn't have a few races ago. So I would keep Grosjean at this team. But for Kevin Magnussen, there was nothing really he could have done. It was just an unfortunate race, cruising around at the back. He's just had a very unfortunate weekend ever since Fernando Alonso decided to dive bomb him around the outside into the first chicane in qualifying. It's all gone wrong. So not good there for Kevin Magnussen. But for Haas, all good. All good. And going into Singapore, I don't think they'll have the car that is best of the rest. But they should be scoring points. They should be in that battle to score points for sure. And finally is Sauber, who I have to say they've had a poor weekend. They've had a poor weekend. They should have been way faster than this. You know, Leclerc and Ericsson, P17 and P19 in qualifying. And in the race, they weren't massively quick either. I think Leclerc was 12th, which is not bad, but Sauber should have been scoring points. I'm sorry, they should have been scoring points. And even though Ericsson finished in the points in Spa, it's ever since the British Grand Prix and that double failure, they're off for some reason. They're off form. They're out of form. I don't know what's going on, but they're just not at it. I don't know what's happened mentally for the team since Silverstone, but since then, mentally they've just switched off. There's no real pace there. And going into Singapore, I don't see how they can get into the points. This is why I was bigging up these two races where they could score points, because these tracks, Spa and Monza, should suit the Sauber, and they didn't. They didn't really suit the Sauber. So I don't know what to say. Singapore, they're not going to be good. And yeah, overall, quite poor from Sauber. But guys, what do you think about Williams' race? Did you think Williams were the surprise package of the weekend? Toro Rosso, were you surprised how slow they were in the race, or were you not? Did you always expect this kind of thing, especially with Pierre Gasly? What did you think about Haas's race and Grosjean's race? Do you think Haas will finish 4th in the Constructors? And for Sauber, are you guys surprised like me that Sauber have been so poor since Silverstone? I want to see what some of you guys think, so I'll go to the chat now and see what some of you guys think now. Thank you, by the way, to the 212 people watching live. Again, thank you so much. The numbers this weekend have been spectacular. There's still people talking about Vettel and Hamilton. Say Rugara. Vettel didn't exactly screw the pooch. It was a racing incident. It was a racing incident. Nothing more than that. If anyone thinks, you know, that a certain driver should be absolutely given like a 10th-place penalty or a massive penalty, then we all know who they're fans of. It was a racing incident, sort of like Mexico 2017, again from Say Rugara. Yeah, it was. I feel like 61 laps is too much for Singapore. It should be like 50 or 53. This is the thing. Going back to Brendan Hartley, he might actually thrive at Singapore, because Singapore tends to be quite an endurance race. And of course, Hartley is a world endurance champion. So that might actually suit Hartley when it comes to the race. We'll see. Races like this prove that the regulation changes next year are completely pointless. Maybe that's tough to call that one, because if this regulation change, say, makes the cars, puts the cars, say, 2 or 3 tenths closer to each other in terms of, you know, getting rid more of that dirty air, then I think the racing will be great. But I see what you mean after a race like this, and after a race like Silverstone or Austria or Bahrain, list goes on. I understand what you mean. Shuai Yai Ying, I do agree about Sauber. They have not been performing well, especially Leclerc, who really wasn't anything amazing recently. Again, since the British Grand Prix. I think actually since the German Grand Prix with Leclerc, because he did have a good qualifying. He hasn't done anything that special at all. He just hasn't been that good. I don't know if it's because maybe Ferrari have given him a contract and he's already signed up for 2019. I don't know. Maybe that's on his mind. I don't know. But he hasn't been at it since Hockenheim. I think, is it Rifle Lear at Silverstone? Vettel said that Ferrari had defeated Mercedes at the factory home track and now could hang the British flag at Maranello. Wonder what he thinks now. Good point. Very good point. Niblo Leclerc has been very unlucky since Germany, especially first lap. In Hungary and Spa, yeah. But in Hungary and Spa, his pace wasn't that great, but he did have issues in qualifying in Spa. But right, guys, if you've got anything else to put in the chat about today's race, then go ahead, because I will be coming off the stream in, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and get the race review for tomorrow ready. By the way, I will show a graphic on the screen in a moment to show you guys the upload schedule remaining for the Italian Grand Prix weekend. Vettel needs to perform his best at every single race now to have a chance at the championship. That's from B. Hassan 786. And Ferrari can't trip up at any point. If that's the case, then Hamilton's going to win the title, because I can guarantee you, Ferrari and Vettel will make another mistake and lose more points. I guarantee you. They do it so many times. And until they learn when not to make a strategy call, they're not going to win a title. They're not going to. I wish that, Ferrari were better in that aspect, because the title battle would be a lot closer right now, but no. Roosevelt Davis, Hamilton is not laying off the gas from here on in, but I believe Mercedes owe one to Bottas. If Hamilton wins the title before the last race, then I think Bottas, they'll try and push him to a victory, kind of like Ferrari used to do with Barrichello back in the Schumacher-Barrichello days. Once Schumacher won the title, they'd try and get Barrichello a couple wins and get his championship position higher up. Andrew Drury, if Mercedes win in Singapore, Vettel hasn't got a chance. Depends where Vettel finishes. If Vettel retires like last year and Hamilton wins, then I will, come on this live stream and I will say Lewis Hamilton will win the title 100%. But we have to see what happens in Singapore. Say Rugara, Mercedes are taking both titles probably. Yeah, I think they will. Constructors, actually, I still think Ferrari actually will win the constructors, but drivers definitely. I think Hamilton will win. B Hassan 786. You think Hamilton Mercedes combo is like the Schumacher and Ferrari combo in terms of success as a partnership and working well together? Yeah, I would. Hamilton has won 3 out of the last 4 world titles, and it looks as though he's going to win another one, so that'll be 4 out of the last 5. And it's very similar to Schumacher back in those days in the early 2000s. Once they got the fast enough car, you knew that as a partnership they would get the job done, because they were so good as a partnership. They were so good. It was so hard to beat Schumacher and Ferrari at their best, even in 2003, where Schumacher and Ferrari weren't that great, because of the trust they had in each other and because of how great they worked with each other. They got the job done. And I kind of feel like this season is kind of similar to 2003 in a way that Hamilton and Mercedes don't have the fastest car. This is probably the worst Mercedes have been since 2013. And in a similar way to Ferrari in 2003, despite that, they are, getting the points that is needed to go and win the title. Doesn't matter how many wins you get, as long as you get the points, that's all that matters, and you deliver on race day. And that is what Hamilton and Mercedes do. They might not have the fastest car. They don't have the fastest car. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, Hamilton and Mercedes are a lot more of a trustworthy partnership than Vettel and Ferrari. It's clear to see that. Right, I'll answer a few more questions and then I'll go. By the way, sorry about my sore throat. I've been commenting so much this weekend. Been so great though, so great. What a great weekend we have had. Niblo, Ferrari need to bring back Braun and Tot. Yeah, they were great for the team. They need to find someone though who can do that kind of job, that's younger and can put Ferrari, you know, back where you could arguably say they deserve to be. JB, will Ferrari ever win a title? Will Vettel ever win a title with Ferrari? He should do. He should do, but we said that last season. We said that this season. How many times are we going to keep saying this? That, you know, oh, Vettel is, you know, he's going to win the title. He's going to win the title. And then he doesn't. He should win the title eventually with Ferrari. Ferrari stretched the gap to Mercedes in terms of the pace advantage next year. Ferrari and Vettel should win the title next year. They should be winning it this year. But with the way they keep blowing points, I don't know. I really don't know. They might not. They might not. There's not, you know, it's not a guarantee that Vettel and Ferrari are ever going to win a title together. There's no guarantee at all. Do you think Vettel will come back to strike? That's from Joseph Hernandez. I think he will respond. I wouldn't be surprised if he won Singapore dominantly and Hamilton finished, I don't know, third. And then we start talking about, right, does Vettel now have the momentum? But then in Russia or Japan, Ferrari will blow more points. Probably. We'll have to see. B. Hassan, I think in 2019 Ferrari will either blow Mercedes away with their pace or they will absolutely blow it with a subpar car. I just want to say this and kind of plant a seed in some of you guys' minds. Next year's regulations are about, you know, removing the dirty air or trying to make it a lot less frequent on these cars when the cars are racing together. What team on the grid struggles the most with dirty air? It's Mercedes. So if it works in terms of cleaning up the dirty air, I think the regulations are going to suit Mercedes a bit. I'm not saying they're going to have the fastest car. I think it's going to be at least level. And if someone does have the fastest car, it will only be maximum a quarter of a second. But I think they suit Mercedes a bit in that aspect. Who's hyped for Russia? I'm dreading that weekend. I'm dreading that weekend so much. I cannot wait to get that race out of the way, because after that we have Suzuka, the US Grand Prix, you know, 2 races which normally have great racing. B. Hassan, I'm not saying they're going to win the title, but I think if, you know, cleaning up the dirty air does work with those new front wings and aero, that is going to help, I think, a bit Mercedes, because Mercedes struggle more in dirty air than Ferrari do. But it's still, you know, kind of close. Ferrari aren't that great in dirty air. Anyway, just look at Kimi Raikkonen today behind Valtteri Bottas. Santosh, Vettel needs to pick his moments. Aggression is not going to win every time. Agreed, he needs to control his aggression. He needs to control it. Just looking for more comments. I will be coming off in a minute, guys, and updating you as to what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. And I'll be thanking you guys in a minute for what a great weekend we've had. Jordan Michael, I see Vettel versus Alonso on 2010 and 2012, but Alonso doesn't have a good car back then. If you were to compare it to that, then I'd say Hamilton is Alonso in that sense. Legendary Snipers, if Vettel keeps screwing up and gets within 7,500 points behind Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship, it's over for him. Vettel cannot make a mistake. He cannot make a mistake in the last 7 races. If he does, it's probably going to be over. Right, the final question. Who am I going to go with? Right, put your final questions or comments in and I'll read it out. By the way, I will be doing a Q&A tomorrow. I'll get onto that in a moment. Just waiting for you guys to fill up the chat. Again, thank you to the 174 people watching live. It's been great this weekend in terms of viewership and just the channel. Shuai Ya Ying will now have, I guess, the final question. Who is actually performing better? Bottas or Raikkonen? Right now, Raikkonen. Overall, oh, that's hard to say. That's really hard to say. I'm going to go Bottas just. I think overall this season, Bottas has been slightly, very slightly better. But it's still very close between the two finished drivers. But guys, this is the upload schedule tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last day, or one of the last days. Well, of course, we have the podcast with me and Nib, or Niblo, who's in the chat right now, where we will go through the Italian Grand Prix and discuss what happened at that weekend. That'll be on Tuesday, but on Monday, race review will be out at 4 PM or around 4 PM UK time tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll be going live again at 6 PM for a Q&A, basically for 30 to 45 minutes. I'm going to sit here and take questions from you guys and give answers to your questions. So subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the notifications bell for that stream. So if you want to ask me any questions, come along for that and I will do my best to answer as many as I can. But guys, I have to say, thank you guys so much for this weekend. We are now over 800 subscribers. The viewership we've had this weekend is crazy. Crazy. It's mind-blowing to me. We don't even have 1,000 subs and we're getting thousands of people on the channel right now. So I'm so grateful. In the race watch along, we had, I think at one point, about 450 people watching live. I cannot believe I just said that. 450 people watching live. That's so good. Thank you so much, guys, from the bottom of my heart. I can't do this without you. So again, thank you guys so much. But again, guys, subscribe to the channel either on the bottom right of the screen, or click on my channel name, or click on the link in the description that goes to my channel page so you can subscribe. Like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video, and comment down below what did you think of the Italian Grand Prix and what happened in the Italian Grand Prix as well. Don't forget to join our Discord server. A link to that is down below in the description. We have just over now 60 people in that server. It's such a great community over there. We're growing all the time, so hopefully you can join us. It's a very good community over there. As well, follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up to date with when I'm uploading and if there are any issues as to why I'm not uploading when I said I was going to. Then you have to follow me on Twitter, because if you're wondering, oh, why hasn't Chaz uploaded, then I'm most likely tweeting about it on my Twitter. So follow me on Twitter for that, and as well, go down below and click on the link that goes to my website, chazerhd.com, again to keep up to date with the channel. But guys, thank you so much for this weekend. I will see all of you tomorrow evening for the post-race Q&A live and the race review. And hopefully you all have a good Sunday. I have thoroughly enjoyed today and the 2018 Italian Grand Prix. And I will see all of you tomorrow.